Okay, Nun Zayin Amud Beis, and the Mishnah had spoken about Gidulim. That's how the subject comes in. It says, depends how the person who made the neder, how he worded himself. If he said Peraselu, so then even the Gidulim become Maser. If he said he's not going to eat this thing, any ochel, any toim, so then the Gidulim are mutter, but it depends if it's Zara Kola. If the original thing disintegrates, so then the Gidulim are mutter. If the original thing is still here, then the Gidulim are Aser. So based on that subject called Gidulim, we come to a subject now called Gidulim. For other Yisurim also, and the Gemara starts, we're on Zayin Amud Beis. And by the way, in the beginning of the Gemara, so it spoke about the Gidulim. So it starts with a story. Yishmael ish kfar Yama, Vamila ish kfar Di Yama. Yishmael, we don't know much about him. A man is from the village of Yama or Di Yama. If it means someplace near the ocean side, I'm not sure. So Helabiyodo, he came up with the following question. So Yishmael ish kfar Yama came with the following Helabiyodo, the following question. Batzal she akro b'shvius, v'noto b'shminis, v'robu gidol of alikaro. An onion that grew during Shemitah, so it's a onion of Shemitah. And he also uprooted it. It grew in Shemitah, whatever he uprooted in Shemitah. It's a Shemitah fruit, perish shvius. It's a kedusha shvius.
What's the nato?
Nato means that he planted it. He took the onion, the onion, and he planted it in the 8th year. He took a pre-shvius, a perish shvius. He took something which is a Shemitah fruit. Even after Shemitah, even after the year.
Out on shvius, is that what he's up?
Yeah. And he uprooted it during the 7th year, and he planted it. So whatever grew during Shemitah has kedusha shvius, even after the year is over. The things that start growing, the Shemitah is over, and now things that grow in the 8th year are 8th year. But the fruit that's a Shemitah fruit stays a Shemitah fruit even after the year is over.
Exactly what's happening now. We're exactly going through that now. This.
I think you're talking about the things that are growing, the fruit that are growing now. That's shvius fruit.
Yeah, there's nobody saying. We're eating cucumbers, which are from the 8th year, but there are also avocados from last year, from shvius.
That's because
that's not.
That's because it grew
in the 7th.
Yes, fine.
So it's still shvius,
even though it's not the 8th
where
year.
the cucumbers are not.
Here we're talking about an onion that was mamish grown and even uprooted on the 7th year. So some should pre-shvius. Take a pre-shvius. You take it's off the tree,
right.
not attached. You have an onion of Shemitah, and now you're planting it on the 8th year. So will be the question, because this this onion still remains Shemitah. It's a Shemitah onion.
Right.
And now that it grows, and now it's Gedula. It's Gedula Shvius. It's Gedula on that. It happens to be Davar Shein Zara Kola, that the onion, the original onion doesn't disintegrate. When you put an onion in the ground, it's not like seeds or things that disintegrate. It does not disintegrate. The original onion stays intact, and it produces more onions. So the question is now, B'robo Gidula of Ali Koro, that the growth that it grew in the 8th year, either it itself got bigger or it grew more. The point is that there are more Gidulim than what was than the original onion. And the assumption is that the Gidulim are mutter. This page, and maybe the next couple, is taking the assumption that Gidulei Shvius are mutter, Gidulim are mutter. Again, we're going to have a lot of cases, and Gidulim, the Gemara seems to take the whole time that what the outgrowth is mutter. Forget about our Mishnah, forget about any other Mishnahs and Trumas. Here it seems to say that Gidulim are mutter. Whatever grows out, the Gidulim are mutter. And the new question is...
Yesterday, not so. Yesterday, we had problems.
Yesterday, we said by Nedarim, there are some cases that Gidulim are mutter, some cases Gidulim are aser. Our Mishnah spoke about the Gidulim of a Davar Shein Zara Kola is still aser. That's our Mishnah, but forget about everything. Blank. Delete everything. Start from fresh.
And whose holds? We cannot hold this as halachically correct.
No, just for today and tomorrow. And
we go back.
Here it says Gidula. The assumption over here is Gidula Mamuta. Gidula Mamuta. The question is, you have an onion which is Shemitah. Call it that's a Shemitah, and it grew more, and the growth is not Shemitah. And it's robe, it's more, whatever amount you need. Is there? Could we say that the growth, the Gidulim, are going to be Mavatal the Iker? Batal she'ikro b'shvius v'nato b'shminis, and it grew more. V'rabu gidula of ali karo, and the growth was increased more than the original ikar. The question is, that was the case of Yishmael Ish Kfar Yama brought. Then what was the question? Gidula heter v'ikra aser given the Rabu gidula meikaro ostan gidula heter ma'alin es iserolo. It seems the Pashup Shat. The round goes altogether different, but the Mefarshim Adam seem to read the Gemara simply. It might have a lot of problems, but the assumption in our Gemara is that the Gedulam are mutter. That's a given. The Gedulam are mutter, and the question is: are the Gedulam able to be mevatal the Iker? The Iker is Isser. Call it here. This example is going to be of Shemitah. So the Gedula, the Iker is Shemitah. The original onion is a Shemitah onion, but grew in the 8th year is not Shemitah onion. The additional 8th year onion cannot be Mavatel, the 7th year onion. You have an onion. Let's talk about
by row.
by rove, yeah. Let's talk about even the onion got bigger. Forget about that. If it grows more onions. Have an onion that's a 7th year onion, and you planted it, and it grew more. It got bigger, and it got so much bigger that there's more of the 8th year onion, 8th year addition than the original 7th year. Are you going to say that it's mevatel, that the heter is mevatel this? So usually something falls into a pot. If you have heter and this stuff, there's going to be rove. So it nullifies it. Are you going to say also that the rove of the 8th year onion is going to be mevatel the miyut of the 7th year onion?
Surely you have to see if you can still recognize the shvius element of it. It's problematic because you still see.
So why is the Gemara have any doubt? Why should it not be mevatel? Why should it not be mevatel? Chaim David saying maybe because it stands by itself. You see it differently. New layers grow maybe, and you see distinctly which is the shvius, which is the shminis. The Rush seems to say something like that. We could turn to the Rush over here. Mostly what I'm going to say, most I got from the Rush. I don't want to misquote him, but he does say this. Here he says.
On which one?
On here it's on the wide lines.
Mm-hmm.
First he says in the narrow lines, 2 lines before it spreads. The Rush says pshitali the gedula mutarin. The gedula masholi mutar, even if it didn't become rove, even if it's not. Maybe I'll try to highlight it as we go along. Pshitali the gedula mutarin. But the question is, kikami boili in the 3rd wide line. Kikami boile, oli. If it's mevatel the ikar, and he says even though usually we always mevatel. Next 2 lines, v'loidami l'shavi surchin mevatel berov mishum dahanach lo misarvi legamri yachad. It seems a little bit like Chaim David said. They don't completely mix. Elanitos will gidulin al ikar, that the gidulim add on. The ikar is still there, and the gidulim are growing more. It's not mamish mixed up. That's how the Rush seems to explain the Gemara's question. We know that the gedulim are mutter. That's a given. That the gedulim are mutter, and the original was the iser of Shemitah. And the question is if the additional 8th year onion can nullify the original 7th year onion. That was Yishmael Ish Kfar Yama's question. So this Yishmael Ish Kfar Yama came to Rabbi Yami. He didn't know the answer. He came to Rabbi Yitzchak, the blacksmith. So he did answer the question from the following statement. He's quoting Rabbi Yanai that says the following case: Batzal shel truma shenato v'robu gidula v'alikaro muter. Here's also a case of an onion, but not an onion of shvius, but an onion of truma. And the Gemara is also assuming over here that the gidule truma are muter. So you have an onion of truma that you planted. You took an onion of truma and you planted it, and now it grew more. And the extra growth, the Gemara assumes that is a heter. It's not considered truma. Here the Gemara assumes that gidule truma is not truma. Gidule truma, whatever grows out of the truma, is chulin. So you have an onion that the main onion started off being truma, but now after you planted it, you replanted it. So now the gidulim outnumber the original truma. So what do you say? Same case as ours. Are the gidulim able to be matir the ikar? And Rabbi Yanai says yes, that is mutter. Rabbi Yanai said, so that was Rabbi Yitzchak Napocha's proof. That is mutter. that the case of the Shvius also, you have an onion of Shvius, and it grew in the Shminis, you planted it in the Shminis, and it grew more. So the heter, the Shminis, is going to nullify the Shvius, and it's not anymore an onion of Shvius. Amalei Rabbi Yirmiyah, B'Tem Rabbi Zvika, Rabbi Yirmiyah or Rabbi Zvika said to, I guess, Rabbi Yitzchak Napacha, Shavik Mar train Vavet Kechad, you left two and you're doing like one, it means you bought Rabbi Yanai. Rabbi Yanai says, so you did prove that Rabbi Yanai holds that the Gidulam Amavatel the Ikar. But there are two that argue, and he's going to bring now Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Yonasan that seem to say the opposite, that the Gidulam are not matter the Ikar. How could you pass them like one against two? There are two others that say differently. Rabbi Yanai says it's mutter, but two Amoram are going to say that it's aser. The Amar Rabbi Maninu trained. Who are the two that say that it's aser? First of all, Dam Rabbi Bavam Rabbi Yochanan Yalda Shesibcha B'Skena Uva Peiros Afal Pisha Sifa Masayim. Aser. Here's someone Orla. We're jumping around with the Shvius and then Truma, and now we're going to Orla.
Does that mean two portions among what the original? Or what means
Just to get to slowly. Yalda means a young tree, which is Orla. Young means it's less than 3 years old. And Skena means it's older than 3 years old. The Yalda is Orla. The Skena is not Orla. He took a branch from an Orla tree and he grafted it into a non-Orla tree. But the problem was that the branch already has peros. They are all the fruit on this branch, the young branch. The young branch has all the fruit, and he grafted it into the zakena, and now it's growing non-orla. So here you have the case also that the ikar of the fruit was orla, and now that it's growing more, the extra growth is now non-orla, and you have to have 200 times more in order to be mevatel orla. Orla is not batal b'rov. You have to have batal b'masayim, and it did. It grew 200 times more than the original. It means it was very small fruit when he first took it off the branch of the orla tree and connected this branch to the non-orla tree. And after it got connected to the non-orla tree, it grew 200 times more. The fruit grew 200 times
that
bigger
branch?
on the new tree.
Yeah,
It stays on the branch. It stays on the branch. He took an apple branch that had a small, tiny apples, and it was growing on an orla tree. And he took off the branch and he grafted it into an old tree.
Yeah.
And now it continues growing. It gets grafted, and those fruit, they get nutrition from the new tree. However you graft, and now it grew 200 times more than the size
On
of
that branch.
on the new on the branch which is connected to the new tree, to the old tree. Old tree meaning that it's not orla. So it's the same case. It's gidulim against the ikar. And Rabbi Yochanan said that even though it increased 200 times more, it's still usher. How is it usher? Why don't you say that it becomes batal? We know that orla is batal b'masayim. It sounds like gidulim is worse than a regular bittul, and gidulim are not going to be mivatal the ikar. So that's one. Rabbi Yochanan is against Rabbi Yanai. And also there's another one besides Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Yonasan. Also, Rabbi Nachmani, Rabbi Yonasan, Batzel, Shenato B'Kerem, V'Nekar Kerem. Also, so we're jumping around now to Kalaya Kerem. We did already Shvius and Truma and Orla, and now we're doing Kalaya Kerem. John was jumping around. The cruise is going from subject to subject. Here's an onion that was planted in a vineyard. Not a lot of planted onion in a vineyard. That's Kalaya Kerem.
Oh, Clay Kerem.
You're making Kalayim because you're growing the Kerem together with the onion. So that is Kalayim. So it's growing Kalayim. But then Nekar Kerem, then you uprooted the Kerem. So it continued growing. The basil, the onion is still growing in the ground, and there's no kerem over there anymore. So the continued growth is not Kalayim. It's not growing without Kalayim. But you had the original one, the original amount that was growing in the kerem was Kalayim. It's another case, another application of the same case, that you have the gidulim of heter, and we want to know if it's mavata, if it nullifies the original onion, which was Kalaya kerem. And what does Rabbi Yonasan say? Aser. He also says Aser. He also seems to say that the gidulim don't nullify the ikar. So therefore, Rabbi Yirmiyah or Rabbi Zrika asked Rabbi Yitzchak Napacha, why are you bringing a Rabbi Yanai that says that the gidulim are matir? That's one. But Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Yonasan both said that the gidulim are not matir the ikar.
I don't understand the Rabbi Yonatan's case. He took out the kerem.
First, he had an onion
Where's the
growing.
gidulim?
He had an onion growing in a vineyard.
Yeah, that's Kilayim.
And then he took away the vineyard. He uprooted the vineyard, no more vineyard. And the onion is still growing in the ground. It's growing now without a vineyard. So now it's not, now the extra growth now is not kalayim. The original onion was kalayim, and then took away the kerem, and it still grows, the onion alone. So the extra growth now is not kalayim growth, it's heter growth, plain onion.
Oh, the rest of the onion, the usser is, you mean more onion, the more of the onion that grew.
Is the heter.
Is-
The heter is what grew after the kerem was
It
removed.
says
That's-
usser.
The halach is now that it's usher. That's what we want to know.
Okay.
Do the
I didn't know
gedulim,
what the gedulim.
the gedulim,
are,
what
the
continued,
onion, what continued growing in the onion. I see.
but what grew originally with the kerem is the klaya kerem, that's the ikar. Then after you move the kerem, the onion continued growing, that's the gedulei heter. And he says doesn't help. The gedulei heter don't nullify the ikar that was usher. In all these gemaras, we're saying that the gedulim are shulim mutter. The gedulim are shulim mutter. The question is if the gedulim could be muvatal the ikar. The question is not if the gedulim are mutter. That's a
Oh, the
given.
usser means the original part of the
Right,
onion.
the original one still stays usher.
Still
But the
stays
additional
usser.
part, the additional part is Sholim Mutter, Gedulim Amutter. The whole Gemara goes that the Gedulim Amutter. And the only question is if the Gedulim are able to be Muvatel the Iker, even though we always know that Pittel, but here it's worse. Like Chaim David said that maybe because it stands by itself, or he said, how does the Rush say it exactly? His words were that Hanach Lomas Arvi Lagamri Yachad. They don't continue, they don't completely mix, whatever those words mean. Chaim David said it means that the extra layers are noticeable that they're separate. So that's the worst question. Maybe others for us also. The question is if we Gidula Mamatir, and we brought Rabbi Yanai says that it's mutter, and then Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Yonasan say that it's asa. Each one gives a different example. They're not talking about the same case. One's talking about the original case was about Shvius. After Rabbi Yanai is talking about Truma, Rabbi Yochanan was talking about Orla, Rabbi Yonasan was talking about Klei Akerim, but they all come to the same yisod. And we want to know if Gedulim is the Muvatal the Iker. Rabbi Yochanan said, Rabbi Yanai said yes, and Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Yonasan said no. So for some reason, even though Rabbi he was the one who didn't know. He said before that Rabbi Yishmael, Ishkfar Yama, he came to Rabbi Yami, and he didn't know Rabbi Yodeh. For some reason, he came back to him again. After he got the information from Rabbi Yanai and he heard Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Yonasan, he went back to Rabbi Ami. And the Rabbi now did have an answer. Maybe he said, come back, I'll think about it. And he brought a proof from the following statement. Also, it's Rabbi Yochanan. The Amar Rabbi Yitzchak Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Let us know this is Rabbi Yochanan again. So he's going to come to prove that it's mutter, and that's going to be a contradiction of Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan a second ago said that it's asa. Yeah, in the case of Orla. And now Rabbi Yochanan seems to say that it's mutter. What was his case? Also a case of onions. Litra b'tzalim shetikna b'zora. You had a literal amount, we'll call it a kilo, sounds like a liter, a kilo, he had an amount of onions that he took off Trumas HaMaasros, tikna, he rectified it, he did whatever he's supposed to do, so he has regular chulin onions. And he planted it. And the onions got bigger, and they grew more onions, like all onions. The Ein Zarakala, the original one doesn't disintegrate, it's still there. So you have the original and you have the Tosefet. You have the original onion that was chulin, and you have the Tosefet, which grew now, which was never rectified, and that is going to be tevel. When you have new growth, so you have to take off Trumas HaMaasros, it's tevel, right? But the original onion was already chulin. Do you have to take off Trumas HaMaasros even on the original amount? Let's say you put here a kilo of onions, and you took, then it grew, and you planted a kilo of onions, and then you come back after the season and you take out 10 kilo of onions. How much maaser do you get from this 10 kilo?
You want to say
It's including also the original kilo also. The original kilo was still there. It's ain't our color, they will disintegrate. So maybe, according to our question, maybe we have to have two tzadim. Does the chulin become batel? The original one, if it becomes the same way we said, tell them we're talking about the other case. Tell them we're talking about that there was an isser that you planted, and then the outgrowth, the extra growth was heter, and wanted to know if the heter is going to be mevatel the isser. That was a whole sugya till now. Moshe got the whole sugya in a nutshell. You have isser, that you planted, and now then it grew more, and the extra growth is heter, and you want to know if the heter is mevatel the issa. And the Gemara brings a proof. This last proof is the opposite case.
Yeah.
If you planted heter, pulin, that doesn't have to be mu'usar anymore. You're ready ma'aser already. It's mu'usar. And then it grew more, and the extra growth has to be mu'usar. It was never tied yet. And you want to know, do you say, is the new tevel going to be mevatel the heter? Are you going to say that the original kilo of onions
Turned into
tevel? But one of these looks at it the same logic. Is the rove going to be mevatel the miyah? Till now it was negir to the heter to be mevatel the rove, the isser. Now we're talking about the isser to be mevatel the heter. If you have mostly tevel now that grew, so the original kilo of onions that you planted that was chulin, maybe you have to be mevaser it again because it became butter. This was the question. Do you say that the growth is mevatel the ikar? Is the tosefet? Is the gidulim mevatel the ikar? So here Yochanan said a litra of onions that you mumaaser, you tied it, and then you planted it. Misaseres lefikula. You have to take off meiser on the whole thing. You don't subtract, you don't deduct the original amount that you planted. What does that mean? That the original chulin became batel in the growth, the gidulim are mevatel, and it becomes like tevel. Alma osem gidulim mevatel nikar. So you see that the gidulim are mevatel nikar, and it comes out another sheet that it holds that it's mutter. It happens to be Rabbi Yochanan himself. That's a contradiction. Rabbi Yochanan himself said before that's asa, and the Rabbi Yochanan is going to say that they're talking about asa means that the extra growth that grew on the orla is not enough to be mevatel the orla. Gidulim are not mevatel the ikar. And here Rabbi Yochanan seems to say that gidulim are mevatel the ikar. So it seems to be the Gemara doesn't ask it as a contradiction of Rabbi Yochanan. It seems to be a contradiction of Rabbi Yochanan. But as far as our question in general, he wanted to bring a right from here that the gidulim are mevatel the ikar. So it's good. Everybody had a question? The more answers. It's not a proof. Dilma l'chumra shani. Maybe over there is going to be machmer. Over there, the case was that you're making the chulin, original kilo of chulin onions. You're saying that they become tevel now. That's a chumra. All the questions still now were the other way. That the original ikar was asa, and you want to gidulim of heter to be mevatel the issa. That was the question we're talking about the whole time. All different applications of different isurim, shviyas, truma, etc. But here we're talking this case is not similar because this case is that you want to be mevatel the heter. The ikar was mutter and the gidulim are aser, and there Rabbi Yochanan says that it is mevatel the ikar. Maybe only the chumrah. It's a chumrah this way to say that the original chulin becomes tevel, but the other way you're not going to say that the heter is mevatel the iser. So still the Gemara seems to take the side that it's aser. We did have Rabbi Yanai that says that it's mutter. The gidulim of heter mevatel the iser. Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Yonasan, both of them said that the Gedulim of Heter are not mevatel Esa. You have a place where Rabbi Yochanan says that the Gedulim is mevatel, that's only l'chumra, to make that the Chulin should lose its status of Chulin, and it's going to become Tevel, to be Machmer. But you're not going to be Mekel. You're not going to be Mekel and say that the Gedulim are mevatel the Eker. So
there's no problem with because anybody can eat meiser, the meiser, right? Anybody can eat the meiser. It's not like truma. We had a problem before.
Who's the one meiser, first of all?
We're talking about truma.
If it's tevel, then I have to do everything. You have to do truma and meiser.
We're talking about meiser.
Where did it say the word meiser? Because there's misaseres.
Yeah.
Misaseres means tithing. It includes everything. This is, if it's tevel, it's tevel.
Well, I thought there's a problem because with truma, if you take off truma from chulin, then it really isn't truma. Number one.
You want to know how you're allowed to be machmer? How could he be machmer?
How can it be machmer? So you're going to end up being.
So the Rosh says. So nice point. The Rosh says whenever you say something is only chayav b'rabbanan, you have to make sure that you're not going to mess up the deraisa. So he tells you how to do it. You have to make sure you take it from other rabbanan. And also a couple of lines of the Rosh towards the bottom of the page. He says he just points. First he says in short he says, where is this? Dimul l'chumra. Let's see. Dimul l'chumra. The Gemara just means that you have to do Rabbanan, and then the rest of the rush 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all that is telling you how to do it, and they shouldn't mess up the deraisa. Nice point.
Okay.
So the Gemara, but as far as our question is, Agidulim mevatel the ikar. So where so far we brought Rabbi Yochanan says that it's yes. Rabbi Yochanan said not. Even Rabbi Yochanan said that the chumrah we will say that the Gidulim are going to be mevatel. That chulin to make it usher. But as the regular cases of being Mevatel Isser, so 2 against 1. If Yochanan says usher, if Yonasan says usher, if Yana said mutter. Bottom line, element ada. So Rabbi Yami is still looking for proofs about this question. He brings the following brisa. The Tanya, Shimon Omer. Top of the page. Call Dava Shesh Lo Matirin. So we heard many times this concept of Dava Shesh Lo Matirin, something which became batel. It fell into a majority or more, which according to the regular law should be batel. But since Dava Shesh Lo Matirin is not Afilu Belach Lo batel. What does that mean? Since anyway, eventually the Isser is going to become batel. There's a way to be matir the Isser even without bittul. So then we don't rely on bittul. That's the concept called Dava Shesh Lo Matirin. If eventually it's going to become mutter, either by doing something or by its time alone, the Isser is going to become mutter. So don't rely on bittul. Even though it became batel, it's not batel, and you have to remain with Isser until that heter happens. That's the concept that Rav Shimon is saying over here. That's not really our subject, but it comes in Agam. Called Dava Shesh Lo Matirin. And what's an example of a Dava Shesh Lo Matirin? Kigon, Tevel, Meiser. Tevel, Meiser Sheni, Hektesh, and Chodesh. So why is Tevel Dava Shesh Lo Matirin? Anybody want to help? Why is Tevel called Dava Shesh Lo Matirin?
Because you could tie it.
Because you could tie it. So don't be Mevatel Tevel. It's Dava Shesh Lo Matirin. Why is Meiser Sheni Dava Shesh Lo Matirin?
Because you can take the truma.
Meiser Sheni. Meiser Sheni means it's already Meiser Sheni.
Meiser Sheni, you can eat it in Jerusalem.
Because that's nice. Also, they still talk about Pidyon, the fact that it can be poded. There's also a reason why it's Dava Shesh Lo Matirin. Hektish. Why is Hektish Dava Shesh Lo Matirin?
You can put that.
Because you can be poded. And Chodesh. Why is Chodesh Dava Shesh Lo Matirin?
Time can make it.
Because when it comes to time of the Omer, so it's going to become mutter. So all these things are Dava Shesh Lo Matirin. Dava Shesh Lo
What's the then if it's material?
Matirin is not batel. There's no share for bittul. We call it afil batel. It doesn't become batel, even if these things fell into heter, the tebel or the meiser sheni fell into heter, the hektish fell into heter, the chodesh fell into heter. You don't say that it's batel because Dava Shesh Lo Matirin, so it's not batel. That's not our subject. Then the Rav Shimon continues, something which has no way to make it mutter. Kigon, chuma's meiser, chala, orla.
I'm sorry, lo nasnu.
There's no share for bittul.
Where's that?
Lo nasnu ben chachamim share. That's the words you just read.
Okay.
That there's no share for bittul, which we would have said afilu belach lo batel. That's the way we would say it. But that's why he says other places. Here it says there's no share. That means there's no share for bittul. No matter what it falls into, there's no bittul. But Dava she'ein lo matirin, that there's no way that's going to become mutter by itself without being batel. Keep going truma. Truma, there's no way to make truma not to be truma. Truma's meister. Also, there's no way to make truma's meister shouldn't be. You can't be poed to these things. Meister sheni, you could be poed. You could eat it in Yerushalayim. But truma, you could talk about. Maybe truma the Kohen should eat it. We'll talk about it. I think it's going to come up later on. But the Gemara here, the Mishnah says, it's a Mishnah of Brisa, that truma. It's a Brisa. Truma is not called matirin. Dava Shesh Lo Matirin. Truma's meister is not chala. Chala also ain't lo matirin. What could you do? Chala is chala. Goes to the Kohen. It's not called Dava Shesh Lo Matirin. Orla, you can't make Orla not Orla. Once it's Orla, it's Orla. There's no way that the Orla is going to become not Orla. And Kalaya Kerem, once it became Kalaya Kerem, so that produces us. There's no way. So these things is Davar She'ein Lo Matirin, and therefore Nasnu B'hem Chachamim Shir. So then there is a share for bittul then. Davar She'ein Lo Matirin is not batel. Davar She'ein Lo Matirin is yes batel. That was Rav Shimon's statement. Sounds like an innocent statement. Dava Shesh Lo Matirin is not batel. Dava Shesh Lo Matirin is batel. Amru lo, v'lo shvius ein lo matirin, v'lo nasnu b'chachamim shir. Shvius batel. Perish shvius. Is something perish shvius, something a fruit, a vegetable, or whatever of shvius that fell into heter. Does it become batel? So if we think about the klal we just said, Dava Shesh Lo Matirin, Dava Shein Lo Matirin, could shmita fruit become not shmita fruit? No. Once it's a shmita fruit, it's a shmita fruit. There's no way to get it out. You can't be poded. Nothing to do about it. So according to the klal of Rav Shimon, it should have bittul. It should have bittul.
We're in the Bryce already.
We're in the middle of the Bryce still.
We're in the middle of the Bryce.
We're in the middle of the Bryce, and the next words are a little confusing
Because it's enough.
because there's the Tanan, because you don't have a Bryce quoting a Mishnah. So the Rosh says that it's in parentheses. I mean, he doesn't say parentheses, but he says that the Gemara is inserting it. The Gemara is inserting that that it is true that the halacha is that Shemitah Shvius is not batel, And that's what Rabbanan are asking of Shimon, according to your klal, it should be batal. You just said davar she'ein lo matirin, davar sheyesh lo matirin is not batal, but a davar she'ein lo matirin is batal. Whatever number you have to have. But here it says that Shvius, ein lo matirin, that the Allah is ein lo matirin. There's no way that it can come with it by itself. Below nostal chachamim shir, and there is no shir of bitul. It's not batal. And now the Gemara inserts the Mishnah that says so. The Tanan hashvius oseres kol shehu b'mina. That if shvius falls into the same type, if it's min b'she'eno mino, if it falls into something that's not its type, one type of food falls into another type of food, gets mixed in, then it is batal. That's b'nosein tam. If it doesn't give taste, but if it's b'mina, if it's the same type, so then there's no bitul. Oseres kol shehu. Any amount is going to answer it. You don't say bitul on shmita. And you, Rav Shimon, says that if it's a davar she'ein lo matir, and if it's something that doesn't become matir, it should be batal according to the regular laws. And here, I mean, you yourself happens to be the Rebbe says that maybe Rabbi Shimon himself is the one who said it over there in that Mishnah. Hashviras says culture that Rabbi Shimon even says so. So they're asking that you're not consistent with what you said someplace else. Amalahen. So Rabbi Shimon replied, Afani lo amarhu ela lebiyo. The place that I said over there, that Mishnah, or what some change the gears, afatem, whatever it's saying, you don't say, they didn't say that shvius is not batal only as far as beer goes. But as far as shmita falling into something that is not shmita, then it is batal. It is batal. That's then. If, as far as eating goes, it is benos, and then it is batal benosein tam. Benosein tam means the amount that we call shishin. If it falls into 60 times, it doesn't give taste. Once it doesn't give taste, it is batal. That's the end of the kasha. There's supposed to be a kasha over here. What we're supposed to find about gidulim, we want to know if gidulim are mevatel the ikar. That's our subject. We spoke about many cases of the same yisod. Gidulim mevatel the ikar. Things that grew. Is a mevat out of the original, is a mevatel the original. So here we are, left standing. What is the proof from here? What does he see from here? It's supposed to be a kasha. Rambam is supposed to be right from this case that gidulim something. Does anybody say anything about gidulim over here? That's the Gemara is going to answer. That Gemara goes on to answer the kasha already, and just to see the answer, shani. Period. That's as far as we're going today. But if everybody's welcome to suggest what we just did. We're looking for a raya about if the gidulam are mevatel the ikar, and Avami brought down this brisa that Rav Shimon said there's a difference between when shmita is batal or not. There's a mission that says shmita is not batal, and he explains that's talking about biur. By achila, if something of shmita would fall into other fruits not of shmita, it is batal. But for biur, it's not batal. Someplace you're supposed to see over there that gidulim something. I don't even know which way to go. The Gemara's answer is going to be Vidil Mahanami L'chumra Shani. Maybe over there it's L'chumra, means in our case, you see from the answer what the Gemara thought is bringing a riot to. I'm stuck over here, so I don't know how to go further, and also I don't even know what to say at this point. The Gemara answers, but in order to reject the raya, the Gemara says that this is L'chumra Shani. We want to know a case of Heter being Mevatel Isser. Maybe Heter is not Mevatel Isser. Maybe the Gedulim are not Mevatel. Here it's supposed to say, the Gemara thought that it says over here, it thinks over here, it says that the Gedulim are Mevatel. Here it's supposed to say this, in this raya we just brought, it's supposed to say that the Gedulim are Mevatel, and the Gemara thought it's a right to us, and the Gemara says, no, it's not a right to us. But yes, the Gedulim are not going to be Mevatel, because we're not going to be Mekel to say the Gedulim are Mevatel. Over there, that you just brought a right that the Gedulim are Mevatel, that's L'chumra. And here I don't know what to say. So everybody's welcome. We have time, we have plenty of time, about 20 minutes. So to figure out what does the Gemara see over here?
When it says B, it's not bottle for beer. That means is after this month beer.
So here, there's a rush over here Afani lo amarti elo labir, klomar she'omdim b'karka, when it's still growing. This is going to help us that it's still growing. He says, karka, in the beer and achila, the Rosh is going to say that one case is when it's still growing, one case when it's not growing. That's what we're looking for a little bit, because we want to know growth. We want to know the point about Gidulim, when something grows more. So he says, it's not yet, you're not eating it, it's still growing. That it was 60 year Paris, that now it's the 70th year, and it grew in the 70th year. So he says that the reason why it's also culture is because the Gidulim that grew, the 7th year Gidulim, here the Gidulim here is the opposite. That's the direction we're looking for. That the Gidulim here is the Isser. Till now, he's talking about that the original one was the Isser and the Gidulim was the Heter. And this is another case similar to the case of the Chulin that was Heter. Here, the original one was Shishis. It was a 60-year fruit, which is Mutter. And now it grew a little bit into the 7th year. And that's because the Gidulim is the Isser. And the fact that it says that it's Chayiv and Biur says, doesn't that, but usually when you say Biur, it means Allah about Biur means that it's Chayiv and Shvias, and if the Shvias is open, there's no more left in the fields that once it comes the time that there's no more fruit available, then you have to be Miva'er. But the Rosh doesn't seem to say that that's the point of the Gemara about Biur and Isser Shmita, but it's talking about, does it become Asr? So he says the words mean, is it growing or is it already detached? If it's growing, so then the Gidulim do Asr the Ikar. Even a little bit of Shvius is going to Asr the Shishis. And that you see that the Gidulim are Mevatel the Ikar. And the Gemara wanted to bring a proof from here, also to us, that the Gidulim of Heter are going to be Matir the Isser. And then the Gemara says it's not a Raya, because that's only the Chumrah, maybe not the Kula. Avalachila, Shavia Labayas, Lechol, Venesabu Perish Vias, and Perish Minas, Benozin Tam. Alma Gidule Isser, Osir Mesa Eker, but the Sefas Kolshu. So it has to do with the case of beer, which beer doesn't really mean beer according to the Rosh. In order to explain the Gemara, you have to say there's something of Gidulim over here. So he says that the Chiluk of Shimon said is if it's growing and the extra growth is Isser, so then it asks the Kolshu. Even though, and you don't say that you see that the Gidulim are Mevatel the Iker. That's called the Gidulim and Mevatel the Iker. The fact that the extra growth of Isser is going to answer this food, even though it's mostly Shishis, since it has a little bit of the growth, it answers the original. So too, the Heter is going to be Mevatel the Isser. Here it says in the first one line in the Rosh, Alma, so highlight that. Alma. Gidulei Isser Osir Meseke but the Sefas Kolshu. Achenami Gidulei Heter Matir and Esei Ikar B'Rov. If you see in the case of beer, which the Rosh says beer, that's another way of saying that it's still growing, which is it seems to be hard in the Gemara. That if the thing is growing, even if it grows a little bit more, the Tosefes, the Gidulim of Isser are going to answer the Iker, even though a little bit. Tosefes Kolshu. So too in our case, the Gidul Heter are going to be Matir the Iker. If you have rov, of course you have to have rov. You're not going to have a little bit Heter to be Mevatel the rov, the Iker. But if you have rov, then it'll be Mevatel. And the Gemara says it's not approved. Only because we're marking over here to say that the extra Shvius is going to answer the original Shishis. Lesser as Iker, Kolshu, but Gidul Heter ain't a Matir not say Iker, I feel rov. Maybe Gidulim are not able to be Mevatel the Isser. Isser is going to answer the Heter, but you don't see from there that the Heter is going to be Mevatel the Isser. So I have to stop here. That's as far as we got. It's good?
Yeah.
Okay. I was thinking that since we're doing Hanukkah, so it is possible to start it. We don't have to wait until 12 o'clock. We can start, so that's the 5-minute break. So we'll continue in about 5 minutes.
Amen. Well, you're welcome to join.